What if the people who loved you most became the biggest obstacle to your happiness? Imagine 7 chances at love, all shattered by a single word: no. This isn't just a story. It's a raw, unfiltered look at the cost of family expectations. They say love conquers all, but what if all includes your own parents? If you've ever felt trapped between tradition and your own desires, this one's for you. Her name was Ruth, and by the time she was 20, her heart already knew a pain most won't experience in a lifetime. In the quiet, dusty expanse of rural Edo, where tradition clung to every brick and every breath, Ruth carried a secret burden. Love was forbidden, not by law but by faith and lineage. Her father, Muhammed Hafiz, a pillar of their Muslim community, and her mother, Alisha, gentle but unyielding, had one rule: Ruth would marry a Muslim man. But fate, it seemed, had a different script. As Ruth blossomed into a young woman, so did the parade of suitors. But there was a problem, a big one. They were all Christian. First, there was David, kind and earnest. Then came Samuel, an ambitious young teacher, both heartbreakingly rejected. "He is not one of us, Ruth," her father would sigh, her mother nodding gravely. The pattern began. James, Michael, Daniel, John, Peter, 7 men, 7 loves, 7 rejections. Each no chipped away at Ruth, leaving her a shadow of the vibrant girl she once was. Years bled into decades. Her 20s vanished, then her early 30s. The once bright spark in her eyes dimmed. The Muslim men her parents hoped for, they never materialized. Not one. At 34, Ruth looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She was a woman unchosen, not by lack of love, but by an invisible, unbreakable wall. And then, everything changed. From the bustling, vibrant heart of Imo State, a man named George arrived in their quiet village. He was an engineer, here for a project, and utterly, completely captivated by Ruth. He saw past the sorrow in her eyes to the fierce, loving woman beneath. And unlike all the others, George wasn't intimidated by the walls her family had built. His love wasn't a question, it was a declaration. And for the first time in years, Ruth felt a flicker of defiance. She was 34, not a girl anymore. Her life, her heart, her choice. This time there would be no asking for permission. Ruth knew what she had to do. It was terrifying, a betrayal of everything she had been taught, but it was also the only path to her own future. She packed a small bag, leaving a note for her parents, a note filled with love, apology, and a resolute promise to live her own life. She married George, not in the grand traditional ceremony, but in a small, heartfelt union that spoke volumes of love, courage, and self-determination. For the first time, Ruth was truly, unequivocally, herself. Free. Ruth chose love over lineage, George over her family's decades of tradition. But freedom, as Ruth quickly learned, came with a heavy price tag. Silence. 6 months. That's how long it took for the reality of her decision to truly sink in. She was happy, finally, with the kind, unwavering man from Imo. They built a life together in a small town not far from her village, close enough to feel the emotional weight of the distance, but far enough to breathe. George was her rock. He understood the constant, low-level ache of being an outcast. He often found Ruth staring into the distance, her heart back in that rural Edo home with her parents, Muhammed Hafiz and Alisha. Her father, the man who taught her the Quran, refused to answer her calls. Her mother, the woman who braided her hair, wouldn't reply to her letters. This wasn't just a rejection of George, it was a rejection of Ruth herself. The emotional chasm was nearly impossible to cross. George, however, was determined. Every few weeks he'd drive to the outskirts of Ruth's village. He never went to the house. Instead, he would leave a small, thoughtful package with a neutral neighbor, homemade snacks Ruth's mother loved, a new prayer mat for her father, or sometimes just a simple letter. This wasn't about winning an argument. It was about laying down small foundations of connection. Then, 9 months after she walked away, it happened. A single, crisp envelope arrived at Ruth and George's house. It was from Alisha, her mother. Ruth's hands trembled as she opened it. The note was short. Not an invitation, not an apology, just 2 sentences. I know you are loved. Your father is unwell and he asks for the dates you used to make. It was a small, almost insignificant request, but for Ruth, it was a thunderbolt of hope. It was a cultural olive branch, a sign that while the religious and tribal walls were still standing, the parental walls were starting to crumble. Ruth immediately started preparing the date snacks, her hands working on instinct, fueled by months of pent-up emotion. George, without a word, drove her to the edge of the village. The meeting wasn't a grand reunion. It was just Ruth, stepping onto the veranda of her childhood home, a tray of dates in her hands, her husband waiting quietly in the distance. Her father didn't speak to George that day, or even to Ruth for long. But he took the dates, and that single silent act was more powerful than any sermon. It was the first, terrifyingly difficult step on the long road to healing. Ruth and George's story continues to show that love isn't just a feeling, it's a persistent, quiet action. It takes courage to leave, but it takes even more courage to keep showing up, even when the door is closed. The tribal and religious differences are still there, but now so is hope. Ruth's story isn't just about forbidden love. It's about the universal struggle between duty and desire, tradition and personal truth. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing yourself. If Ruth's journey resonated with you, let us know in the comments below. What would you have done in her shoes? Stories like Ruth's often go unheard. Help us amplify her voice by sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Join our community where we explore raw, unfiltered stories of strength and courage. Tap that like button and subscribe to ensure you don't miss out on what's next.
Cut the line and choose the path. Then you arrive from somewhere distant, steadfast when the others ran. Held my hand at the village edge, made me feel like I could stand. Drove those roads in guilty sight, married quiet, no parade. Love became my only doctrine, courage just another name for being afraid. I was fading in, you were waiting. We were breaking at the seas. Choose the path. Choose the path.